In the United Kingdom, 3 women are murdered every week in a domestic context. This is a national emergency. We should at least be talking about it and looking at the reasons why. I hope you can interact with me. I hope you can put forward comments, ask questions, perhaps maybe even talk about your own experience if you feel brave enough to do so. If you would like to get in contact with Crossing Point, a Christian response to domestic abuse, then the contact details will be appearing on your screen here, roughly around about here, and they'll also be included in the comments section below on this page. Please do get in contact with us. Please do ask questions. Break the silence. You are not alone.
Our family life was actually quite hectic to start with. So we had a blended family, and then I had had a disabled child, so we lived in a constant stress environment, and so you could kind of see the writing on the wall that was not conducive to us cooperating with one another at all times. At the beginning, it was more control tactics. So I'd be going out shopping, and then I'd get phone calls. Why are you taking so long? Have you met somebody when you're there? It was, like trust issues. And then I discovered my husband was using pornography. And from there I challenged him, and things gradually got worse from there. So that was kind of what triggered things to get a lot worse, I believe, looking back. The abuse that I had been subjected to was mostly in the bedroom. So there was sort of veiled control when we were in social circumstances, but to all intents and purposes, nobody knew what was going on, because as wives, and I'm a Christian, and so as Christians and as parents, we want to hide what's going on, and we just stick our head above and keep going. But when originally things started happening, it was a case of what he was expecting was getting more and more degrading and more painful to me. And I just was realizing that this was something that wasn't going to pass. It was getting worse. It kind of started very subtly, but in the bedroom there would be things going on that was taking a lot longer. He actually suffered from something called PED, which is penile erectile dysfunction, and this often happens to men who use pornography, and so that made things more difficult for him unless he had appropriate stimulation. Eventually things got a whole lot worse when he started experimenting on things that he'd seen in images, and it got to the point where he was he was asking for sex through the back door, and that in the end that was achieved. But I used to drink a lot as well at that point, and I was also taking pain relief and things because it was extremely uncomfortable and extremely degrading. So I would be trying to forget about the whole thing and then carry on as normal the next day. In a typical day, people could think from the outside that actually, and even the victim themselves can feel like they are getting more and more used to it, becoming more accustomed to it, and you're setting up things to be able to cope. But actually, the more that you start adding into it, so the more that you decide to go for a quick sneaky drink whilst you're doing dinner, and you have to keep in mind, you may have to go and pick up the children, so you don't take a drink until after you've done that. These things are all signs that actually you're not coping better, you're actually not coping at all, because something inside of you is broken, and so you pick up these ways of dealing with it. So, you know, where once you could go out for a walk or take an amble to school to pick the children up, you find you're rushing to school so that you can get them and bring them home so that then you can have your drink. And it's the same before an evening, if most of the abuse happens in an evening. With me, it was night time. I knew that I could have the day sort of free to be myself, and then there would be a certain time where, whether you like it or not, you know your insides are working up to the fact of what's coming. So it kind of can seem a bit like it goes from 0 to 60 when I've been speaking about it, but actually quite often you're meandering along at 30 miles an hour through the day, and then suddenly you put your foot to the metal, and it just escalates. And then you know, it's the same with all abuse, sexual or otherwise, that you know that you can keep the peace for a while, and then you've kind of almost got to precipitate it. You've got to kind of almost embrace it, bring it on so that it gets over with, so that you can then, you know, that the person that's doing what they're doing to you falls asleep, and then you've got some time to sort yourself out, and then get prepared to try and sleep and ready for the next day. So yeah, unfortunately we learn these coping mechanisms, but actually it's a very strong sign that you're not actually coping at all. There were red flags along the way, but because I'm a Christian, I read the Word of God, and I had started speaking to my to friends about it. And there was one particular friend that I spoke to, and we were out walking with the dogs, and our husbands were somewhere behind. And we were talking, and I don't know how she managed to get it out of me, but she got the more graphic stuff out of me, and she just stopped me and said, "Oh, that is disgusting." And I felt a bit affronted. I thought, oh wow, like, you're right. And the next thing was that as I kind of pressed deeper into my faith, into my relationship with Jesus, because I feel we do have a relationship with Jesus, I realised that I had Jesus Christ inside of me. And I thought, you can do that to me because I'm worth nothing. That is errant thinking. I'll add that as a caveat. But I thought, you are not doing that to my Jesus. And it was then at that point that I decided enough is enough. And that's when I confronted him and I said, I'm going into my own room. Of course, there was ructions for a while, but he got used to it. But sometimes all it takes, because these people are just bullies. And when you stand up to a bully, guess what? They pull back. But you have to be careful. You know your enemy. Your enemy isn't always the man that's standing in front of you. The enemy, there is a spiritual battle going on. So you have to pick your moments, but you will know when you've had enough. And if you've already reached that and pushed through it, don't do it anymore. There didn't feel like there was any help for me specifically for what was going on with me. Part of the problem was that I wouldn't admit that what was going on was necessarily that wrong. I was told by my husband there was no boundaries between a husband and wife. So I felt that I couldn't go to anybody. I couldn't even go to people at church because I felt I wouldn't be believed because we'd put on such a front. And so that kind of, I didn't really seek help. I did have a little bit of counselling through children's services because our disabled child was very clinically complex, and he was life-threatened a lot of the time. And so the lack of coping due to what was happening to me personally could kind of be put into the same overall, I'm not coping because of the whole situation in the home. And so based on that, I was able to get some counselling, and actually the psychologist in that that I spoke with, she managed to extract some things out of it and said things that started to raise red flags. And that's when I started having to admit that actually something really was going more wrong than I would admit. What happens is when you have that, you have the short-term things that happen to you, you know, the physiological stuff, the emotional stuff. But long term, I was actually told by my GP to go and get a book called The Body Never Forgets. And you start in, if you internalize something and you don't get an opportunity to talk about it and share it, what happens is that your body starts manifesting in sicknesses and diseases. You get, you know, high blood pressure, you eat badly, you don't exercise, you don't get enough sunlight because you don't go out for fresh air. So long term depression, bouts of anxiety, substance abuse. For me it was alcohol and prescribed medication. Unfortunately, through the course of my marriage, I actually had to deal with cancer 3 times, breast cancer, and I am still dealing with broken out now cancer that's gone through my body. And that it's been, you know, I know that from researching, talking to the GP, things like that actually happen because your body's inability to fight and defend itself, and that's because you've not fought against what's been happening to you, so you get used to not fighting, and your body mirrors that and doesn't fight against diseases. Go to your GP. In the first instance, go to your GP. If you're being controlled by somebody who's that's got control over you and won't let you out, I don't know, stub your toe, do something, fall over, go to the GP and make sure that you speak, because any GP worth their salt will know that, you know, if somebody is suffering from abuse. My GP actually told me that he could go part-time because roughly 80% of the patients he sees are there because of physical damage in their body that is rooted in domestic and sexual abuse, either childhood or you know, adulthood, or husband to wife or partners. So go to your GP. Don't take no for an answer. You are valuable and you need your freedom just as much as anybody else does. The person that's doing to you is free to do whatever they want. And what I want for you is for you to know that you are valuable and you are valued, and you deserve freedom. You do not deserve what's happening to you, no matter what you've done in the past. There's nothing you've done that makes you deserve what is happening to you. Don't take it anymore, because you need to, for yourself and for the other women that are out there, you need to speak up about this. Do not remain silent. You need to have your voice heard, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, so that women can get their voice heard. Men do get abused as well, but women just need to get their voices heard. If you have got to a point where you've decided that breaking free is going to be the only option that you have, or it's the option you're choosing, please, and I say this, I've written a book to help people, to help victims and to help people that would support you. Please, please, please make sure that you have a safer exit plan. Your phone's probably being looked at. Any phone calls you make are being overheard and listened to. Make sure that you, even if you have small snippets of being able to speak to people you trust, make sure that you work a safe exit plan, especially if you have children. Make sure that even if they're at school, if you're doing something, you actually make sure that somebody else, a trusted friend, is going to pick those children up for you, because otherwise it could be that the ex goes and takes the children and absconds with them. So make sure you have a safe exit plan.